Okay, welcome to the third episode of my epic Final Fantasy XIII playthrough. I took a look at the episode I made just before, and I think it might be a little bit shorter than I would have intended, so we'll play a little bit longer this time. Picking up exactly where we left off, that was the save point I ended the previous video on. And we're going to work our way through these and into yet another cutscene. Oh, look at that texture work on that box. That is quality texturing right there. Okay, so, is there anything interesting to talk about at this point that I haven't already talked about in the previous video? Seems unlikely. We're still fighting the same enemies, we're still working our way down the same linear path. I think the only major difference is that I have a glass of water now, so we'll drink from that. Because talking into a microphone is thirsty work, it turns out. Oh cool, we get these bikes. You know, if this were one of the PlayStation Final Fantasies, you'd actually be able to ride these bikes. Like, there'd be this whole sequence where you had to ride these bikes and fight enemies and stuff. But nope. Interactivity is for terrible people, apparently. To be fair, it would also be about 10 minutes long and completely slow down the early pacing of the game. This is such a weirdly paced game to begin with, I'm not even sure it'd matter. Yeah, sure, I'm just gonna walk up and, you know, tell him, you killed my mum. I do like Vanille's positivity. It gets grating in the English version because of the way her voice acting is done in the English version. But I've actually found her a lot more tolerable playing with the Japanese audio. So. It turns out that not even Vanille's inane positivity can stop them. The blue hair though, seriously, that blue hair. So I think in this video we will go up to a certain point where well, we will go up to the point where the main plot kicks off. So that may make this a lengthy video because I think I am a little ways away from it. But I want to make up for the slightly shorter video I recorded before. But more importantly than that, it seems like a good place to stop. There's a big cutscene that happens there, so okay, let's get in the bike. He has a good point. I mean, if they go in there, the plot of the game might kick off. And do we really want that? Okay, so we'll save again. Ah, that's the end of chapter 1. There you go. And now we are in here. This is where we get to do a lot more fighting and a lot less cutscening, so it's the first sort of part of the game where you really get to test your combat out. I mean, there's been little bits of combat between now and there, but this is the first time where you really get to have a good look at the combat. So. To be fair to Vanille, given what will become known about her situation as the game goes on, her irritating positivity can be sort of justified, I guess. Maybe not. Maybe still kind of annoying. Maybe you wouldn't write a character like this in that way if you knew what she knew. But in general, I find her less annoying the more I know about her. And that's actually the same with Hope too. Like, if you're just playing this game for the first time, or you're watching this video for the first time and you've never played the game, you probably won't get a good idea of Hope's character or Vanille's character. I'm going to constantly call her Vanilla. But you probably won't get a good idea of their character, and it becomes much more understandable the way they act later on. So... I always like the way this zone looks, actually. Even on the PlayStation, it was a nice looking zone. probably going to do as many of the monster battles in here as I can. Primarily because most of the optional ones tend to hide chests. So getting the items out of the chests is worth it. I'm just going to call them chests. I know they're not chests. I know they're like spheres or orbs or something. I'm sure they have an actual name in the game. I've never read the data log. I'm not planning to. Oh, there's a save point back there too. Well, we'll come back to that save point. It's actually down the stairs a bit. I've just remembered where it is. I'm one of those people who obsessively, compulsively saves whenever I get the chance, so yeah, get used to seeing the save screen for this game a lot, because we're going to be seeing it a lot, because I save a lot. Even when I overwrite saves, which I've done. So yeah, there it is down there. So we'll just go back down there and grab that. There's a couple of enemies over the other side. We can probably skip those. I don't think there's anything. I'll have a look when we get back up there. What's this one? Yep. I'm leaving that other save game there as a reminder to my own stupidity. That was the one I overwrote. I don't see a chest over there, so we might not go for those guys. So, fields of vision. Yep, whatever. Okay, yep. I know we can sneak up on enemies. Yeah, that's the chest there. It's not too bad to skip monster battles in this game, at least at this point, because we're not earning. I want to say experience points, but that's not what the game calls them. But they function like experience. Basically, yeah, we haven't unlocked the Crystarium system yet, so until we do, it doesn't matter how many enemies we fight, pretty much. And how do we get over here? Wasn't there a chest here? Oh, yeah, there it is. Ah. Iron Bangle. I feel like I should equip that, but I also feel like it might be better to equip it on someone else, because we do a lot of character swapping in here, and if I keep it in my inventory I can put on like snow or lightning when they come back into it, as we go further through this area. So yeah, the way leveling works in this game, I'll just talk about it now. We haven't got up to it yet, and it will be explained. Well, it won't be explained because I'm going to skip the tutorial. But the way leveling works in this game is that after every battle you receive CP, or Crystarium points. And these are used in a Crystarium. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid, or the leveling system, I've forgotten what it was actually called in Final Fantasy XII, but it's that style of thing. The one thing I find with the Crystarium is that it doesn't really... It offers the illusion of choice without actually giving you choice, so... But we'll talk more about it once we unlock it. Vanille's reaction to any situation is to hug the other person. Okay, so this is what I mean about swapping characters. There's a fair bit of this going on in this part of the game. It's something that happens less frequently as we go further into the game, but for most of the early part of the game, we'll be switching between groups of 2 or 3 characters. So. Ah, yes. Probably should have pointed out too, even though I'm using the Japanese audio, the subs are a straight... I think they're a straight copy of the English script. So they're not actually a translation of the Japanese audio. What this means occasionally is that characters will speak and the subtitles won't come up, or they'll come up a bit delayed like they did just then. It's basically what people in the anime community refer to as dub titles. I'm not that bothered by it in this game because it feels like what they're saying in both scripts is roughly the same. I don't really know enough Japanese to make a big sort of complaint. Like, I know words here and there and I can hear them say words in Japanese that I know the subtitles aren't translating correctly, or they're translating in a different way than I would expect. But I don't know enough Japanese to really comment on just how different the English subtitles are to what they're actually saying. It feels right, and I think that's the most important part for me. It's not something I'm going to let bother me too much, and hopefully it won't bother you too much either. So, as I've said previously, main reason for using Japanese audio is because when I got the game on the PS3, it only had the English audio, and I'm one of those people that tends to prefer. I watch a lot of anime, and I tend to prefer watch anime in Japanese with the English subtitles. And I watch a lot of like foreign cinema and stuff, so I'm sort of used to it from that as well. So, yeah, primarily I'm doing it not because I want to be some kind of, you know, elite weeaboo type character, but just because it's just my personal preference and has been for a very long time. And also, I thought it would be nice to have the opportunity to hear the original Japanese voice cast. Even though, in this game, I think pretty much all of the lip syncing is synced to the English dubbing as well. There's a few moments when you have the Japanese audio on, I've noticed, where their mouths move and they don't say anything, so... 99% of the time you don't seem to notice it, but there's just occasions where the lip syncing doesn't quite match up to the Japanese audio. And I'm not surprised they've done it that way. The English market's probably the bigger market for a Final Fantasy game these days, as weird as that might sound. So... When I first played this game, I really didn't like SARS, but playing it again, I've actually come to appreciate him. He's actually a really cool guy. Like, I think the problem is he's sort of introduced as this sort of comedy novelty character, but as you get further and further into the game and more is revealed about what his story is, what his backstory is, I could tell you, but I'm sort of trying to stay moderately spoiler free. I might make a joke about something that's a spoiler coming up in like a minute or so, but in general, I mean, as I said in one of the previous videos, this game isn't exactly... it isn't exactly the kind of plot that you can't easily predict what's going to happen next. Yeah, Shrouds. So Shrouds are what we get here. We've got a Deceptor Soul that hides us. It basically makes it easier to sneak up on enemies. I've tended not to bother that much with Shrouds, except for Aegis Soul, I think, which is good for going into boss battles with. So I'll probably use them occasionally, but not as much as I should. I'm sure there are people who swear by them in this game and just use them constantly whenever they have them. I think in the early game it doesn't matter a lot, because it's not like you're coming up against particularly hard battles. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. When we get to... there's a boss fight coming up. It'll probably be the last sort of fight in this video. When we get to that boss fight, I'm going to try and do it without dying. I did it the other day when I got up to it, and I kind of died because I'd forgotten how the mechanic in that boss fight works, but I've remembered now. So hopefully I go in and I still remember by the time I go in, because I'm really forgetful like that, and I'll do stupid stuff like that. So. I think my favourite aspect of the combat in this game is the combo system. I love combo systems in any game. Like, I love playing like bullet hell shooters like Dodonpachi, that has that cool, as you kill enemies you build these combos and get huge scores, and so I kind of like that in this game. Even in fighting games I like the combo system where you get like, you know, some ridiculous number of hits in and stuff like that. I know most fighting games tend to avoid huge combo chains like that, like the Killer Instinct games were the first to kind of do it, and it sort of became a thing for a while, but these days most games either penalise you for doing long combos or just sort of don't make them an aspect of the game. But yeah, so. But I like those kind of combo systems. I kind of wish this actually had that hit counter style combo system that you get. The Tales of series has that too. It's probably one of the reasons I always like the earlier Tales games. Not a big fan of the later ones. I've played Tales of Xillia and Tales of Xillia 2, and they just don't bother. Don't bother playing Tales of Xillia or Tales of Xillia 2. They're not good. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of them, but I did not like either game. So you're very unlikely to see me do a playthrough of those on this channel. Primarily because there's no PC version, and I don't have a really good way of capturing from a console. Mind you, if this series becomes like, well, I'm not going to say becomes popular, but if I keep at it, I might get to a point where I am doing captures off console. I'll probably have to buy a capture device like one of those, I forget the company that makes them, I forgot the name. You see them all the time on Twitch streams and stuff like that for games. Ow! He walked into me. Damn him. Oh, this is... So yeah, it may come to a point one day where I start making videos about console games, but I don't have the equipment to do that yet. So, of course, I am playing on the PC version of this. Oh, that's not going well. Potion. Ah, damn it. So that's what I get for talking too much and not paying attention to Lightning's health. That's another thing to talk about in this game too. Now that we've hit that, a couple of things. The good news is that dying and game overs tend not to set you back too far. Checkpointing, the save points aren't checkpoints. Well, they are checkpoints, but they aren't the only checkpoints. And most of the time you can, if you fall in a fight in this game, you generally will start pretty much right next to the fight so you can go back to it again. So, I'll just keep an eye on everyone's health, because that's the smart thing to do. It's what intelligent people do. We will potion now because SARS is about to die, and I don't want to blow a Phoenix down on this yet. If we can get this guy staggered, that'd be great. There we go. So, I talked about the stagger bonuses and stuff yesterday, but you can see it. This is a good fight to see it in action, actually. See how much extra damage I'm doing compared to what I was doing before. And that's based on that percentage. So, the main reason I've won that fight that time was because apparently he decided to focus fire on SARS rather than on lightning, so that's good. Yeah. But dying in this game isn't a huge setback anyway, so if I game over at any point because a fight just doesn't go my way, then don't panic too much. It's not like the old Final Fantasies where you can lose like half an hour or an hour of gameplay. You'll come back pretty much right near the fight. There's a couple of times where you come back a bit further back and you have to do a bit more, sit through a cutscene and stuff like that. But for the most part it's not too bad. So 15,000. So is that the way we go? Yep, must be, because that's where SARS is running to. So. Might have been able to avoid this fight if I'd used the Deceptor Soul. No! Ah. One of the most annoying things that can happen in this game is that the ATB bars for everyone in your party line up in such a way that you end up losing the combo. Which if you're trying to build stagger, particularly on enemies where you need to build stagger, that can be really annoying. It doesn't become a problem early on, but once we start getting into the roles in the paradigm shift system, that will become more of an issue that we'll need to think about in combat. Gladius. Now that's an upgrade for her. Pardon me. I will equip that. I'm also fully aware that Blazefire Saber is, again, I think it's the best weapon to upgrade for her because it upgrades into the best possible version of the Ultima weapon, but it may be that it's also the costliest one to upgrade into an Ultima weapon for her as well. As I've said, I need to do a bit more research on the item upgrade system in this game. But yeah, this is going to be one of those fights where we have to drop a potion, isn't it? Let's kill the dog. Dog's gone, drop the potion after this ATB refill. I think I mentioned also that potions, using potions and items doesn't actually use your ATB counter in this game. They just, when you activate them, they activate immediately, pretty much. I think there's a very slight lag for like the purpose of animation. Can I kill it? No, I can't. Don't kill SARS. One thing I should point out about Combat 2 is, in this game, if the lead character dies in combat, the battle ends. There's nothing you can do. You can't Phoenix down or anything like that. If you lose the lead character, you lose the fight. I think it's actually a little bit frustrating. I'm sort of curious to know why they've chosen, with this particular Final Fantasy, to lock you to using one character in combat too. Like, I feel it's a bit unusual as a decision to do that. And now we switch back to Snow. So if you know anything about this game, you're probably aware that there's 6 main characters and we've only met 5 of them so far. The 6th and final main character we don't meet for a little while yet, and they don't become playable for a while after that. Okay, I'm not even going to pretend it's Fang. The 6th character is Fang. We meet her later and she'll become, well, for a while we won't even be able to use her, because we meet her long before she becomes a playable character. Activate that. Yeah, so as I was saying before, I think it's actually kind of annoying the way they do the combat system in this game with regards to character control. It's, in a way, it's sort of an advancement on Final Fantasy XII, where you had that weird gambit system where you basically created these, well, they were essentially macros that determined the behaviour of the entire party during combat, and then you had, there was no random combat in Final Fantasy XII. You just sort of encountered monsters and your party would go into a combat mode and you'd fight them straight through. And I liked Final Fantasy XII, but I wasn't a fan of the combat system in it, because you ended up in situations where you're just kind of sitting around waiting for your characters to do everything. And I guess it was the ultimate sort of expression of Final Fantasy as continuous cutscene from start to finish, but it was probably not as fun to play. In fact, I think the battle system in this game is far more fun than the battle system in Final Fantasy XII. Whether the other aspects of this game match up to Final Fantasy XII, I might not agree as much. So I promised myself we were going to get all the way through to the end of this sequence. It's quite a long sequence, so maybe I have to split this video up, but we'll find out once we get through it. Well, that was difficult. Okay. Ah, yeah, that's right. It's just... occasionally I'll probably have these awkward moments where I've basically run out of things to talk about. That's normal. I haven't died or anything, I'm still playing the game. But sometimes I might just be focusing on the combat and trying to get through a particular fight. Anyway, yeah, as regards the combat system in this game, I've always found a little bit odd that you only control the single character. Like, I understand they've set the battle system up around that, and everything works, and the other characters are they essentially run, actually strangely enough, on a sort of gambit system, but it's not one you can control or see. And the AI behaviour is determined primarily by their role, but then also by certain other factors and states that are happening in combat, like how much health people have, whether the enemy is staggered or not, and various other things. So, and all those things come into play about how the AI behaves. I believe it's possible in certain circumstances to manipulate AI behaviour in a way to gain some advantages, but I don't entirely know how to do that. It's not something we'll probably see much of in this. Right, here we go. Save point. You'll notice that one of the options on that save menu is shop. There are no actual sort of visitable shops in this game. The entire shopping system is done at save points through that menu. Because there's no real towns in this game either. As I mentioned before, you have this very linear story from start to finish, and you don't really have that big sort of open world, except that you do, later on, you'll get to that big open world. But once you get there, there aren't towns then either, so it's actually a fairly, I don't want to say it's an empty world, because there's a lot in it, but it's certainly not a very heavily populated world. That's what I'll say about it. But we're a long way from that yet. That's a very long time, and probably a fairly large number of years. Woo, 100 gil. I probably sound more excited by that than I should, but gil in this game is hard to come by. In fact, I was going to check my equipment menu, but apparently I encountered a cutscene first, so we'll have this cutscene. Big hero moment for Snow. And for the first time in this game, we get a three-man party. Excellent. Unfortunately, because we don't have the roles or paradigms unlocked yet, we sort of just have to keep an eye on everyone's health. I think we're going to win this fight easily though, so yeah, cool. Oh hey Hope, how do you feel about the guy that was responsible for your mum's death coming and saving your life? Drama. I think we'll do that every time we have a dramatic scene. I'll just say drama in a really dull voice. No, that'll get old quickly. I'm not going to do that, guys, don't worry. I'm not that cruel. I also won't ever sing, because I cannot, and you don't ever want to hear me sing. So, this is yet another example of one of those sort of dramatic scenes that you don't really get a big impact out of just because it's not well handled. Well, at least that's how I feel about it. A lot of these things can be subjective. I mean, my personal view is that this game takes itself way more seriously than it should. But I know other people who could probably get right into the story and actually find it quite impactful and emotional, so I'm going to try not to be too harsh to judge it. I enjoy this game for its combat mechanics more than I enjoy it for its story and its plot.
その子がルシにされた時、ファルシに何を命令された？やっぱり国軍を壊すとかそういうもんか？聞けなかった。いいか姉ちゃん。ファルシは人に呪いをかけてルシに変える。ルシは使命を与えられる。 その使命を果たせないとルシはああいう化け物になる。もし妹さんがああなってたら、いやまだでもそうルシになった人間を助ける方法はね、たとえ使命を果たしても 普通の暮らしはもうできねえ。永久にファルシの奴隷だ。楽にしてやんな。はっきり言え。ルシになりそうなやつも一人残らず殺せってな。 あんたのようなやつがパージを始めたんだろうな。これが死骸ってやつか。
I haven't talked a lot about that aspect of the game's story, actually, the Felsi and Elsie and all of that stuff. Primarily because it's like about the least interesting thing in the game. Basically, if you haven't worked it out yet, the Felsi are like these big things, and they do a thing, and they can make you into an LC. And an LC is basically a person who has like this brand, and they're given an order by the LC and they have to carry it out, otherwise they turn into one of these monsters. But even if they do carry it out, as you'll see soon, yeah, it doesn't end well for them there either, so it's kind of a shitty world to be living in that regard, I guess, with the threat of like being turned into the slave of like these weird godlike creatures that don't even tell you what your focus is half the time. But we'll get to that as well. I missed some enemies back there. I have, but I don't care. So you've probably noticed with these battles I've been getting preemptive strikes. And the effect of a preemptive strike primarily is that your character will land a single attack on an enemy. You'll see it here right now. So you can see lightning's attacking each enemy, and those attacks set the combo meter basically to maximum, and you can then attack again immediately to get a stagger right at the start of the fight instead of having to build the combo meter up first. There are, I don't think, anything like a back attack type thing in this game. There's no sort of surprise attacks from enemies in this game. Also, it's always your lead character that does the initial damage on a preemptive strike. So whatever they do to attack, they will do at that point. The great thing about those kind of fights is that you get lots of points for clearing them. Okay, we've got a slightly larger monster coming up very shortly. So the downside to the preemptive strike though is that if your character can only hit one of the targets and there's a lot of targets in a battle, you'll usually only get that stagger meter advantage on one of them. It's not a big deal, but it just means that you shouldn't go into a fight with a preemptive strike and expect to be able to easily clear it if there's lots of enemies. This is a much tougher version of the enemies we've just been fighting. These are what you turn into if you fail to complete your focus. It's explained later in the game. I still don't have Libra either. That annoys me. Okay, this guy is just about done. And we're about to hit a save point, and I think this is going to be the boss battle coming up now. So, yep. So we've got a bit of a cutscene, and then we have. Oh no, not yet. Okay, I'm about one corridor ahead of where I thought I was. So, one corridor behind where I thought I was. Oh well. Stagger. Not sure how long this video is working out to be so far. Okay. Let's block this guy. See, these guys are easy. Even if you don't get a stagger, they don't really do much. My big fear is that I'm going to make all these videos and I'm going to get through them, and at the end of it I'm just going to be like, everyone will all be like, man, you're playing this game wrong. And I'll be like, man, if only I'd known how to play it correctly. I don't think there's too many ways to play this game wrong. I think as long as you know how to mash X to win. I'm sure there are techniques where you don't use the auto battle command and stuff like that, but look, I'm kind of lazy and I like to take the easy way out in situations where I think it's the best option. So that's how I'm going to do it. And I think with this game, most of the time auto battle gives you what you'd want to do anyway. There's occasions where it doesn't, but that's why the game does give you the option to manually set up your abilities for each turn. Probably more useful on some of the stronger boss fights, where you have to be a little bit more careful about how your characters act. But remember too, you only get control over one character in combat, so you're automating 2/3 of your character action anyway. So. These guys give good points. Is this the double ghoul fight? These ghouls or these, what are they? Ghasts, that's right. Double ghast fight. So probably use a few potions to get through this one. Try not to bump the microphone too much. So the main danger with these ghasts, they have a lot of health and they hit every so often, so we'll just safety potion now. I have enough potions to get through this fight, that's not an issue. You probably noticed that I'm a little bit obsessive about healing, keeping characters healed. I'm like that in a lot of games I play like this. I generally like to have a party set up that involves a medic by default, rather than as a shift option. It's probably too much of a safety play most of the time. Oh wow, that did a lot of damage. I can't trust that he will survive. I can't trust that I will survive that round long enough, so that's why I used the potion at the end there. Probably didn't need to, but again, I'm just taking it safe. I think this is about where we go into those. Yep, there's another save point just up here. Oh no, this is the cutscene before that. Okay. I'd forgotten about this cutscene until just now.
行くぞ。軍の攻撃が始まる前に。なんだ。
パルスの烙印だ。ルシなんだよ、その子は。
そう言ったはずだ。
パルスのルシは国運の敵だ。
ルシは処刑か。
使命を果たせなかったら、あんな化け物だしよ。
殺すのが情けか。
お姉ちゃん。
セラ！セラ。
ヒーロー参上。
No, I don't know what she sees in him either.
一緒に帰ろうな。
なぜ私が連れて帰る。
姉さん。
誰が姉さんだ。お前はセラを守れなかった。お前のせいで。
守れるよ。
セラ。
守れるよ。だから守って。国運も守って。
使命か。それがお前の使命なのか。
分かった。任せろ。守るよ。俺が守る。セラも国運もみんな守る。
そうだ。私が何とかする。
安心したろ。
ごめんね。
セラ。
ファルシの使命を果たしたルシはクリスタルになって永遠を手に入れる。
伝説の通りか。頑張ったな。
頑張っただと。ふざけるな。セラは
生きてる。伝説だ。ルシの伝説だよ。使命を果たしたルシはクリスタルになって永遠を手に入れる。セラもそうなんだ。永遠ってことは死ぬわけねえだろ。セラは未来の嫁さんだ。ずっと一緒って約束した。俺何年でも待って未来の。
何が未来だ。現実見ないで逃げてるだけだ。
I think that right there is the moment I realized that I really liked lightning.
ねえ、セラ。ルシになったら何もかも失うの？何？
軍隊か。まもなく予定地点に到達する。地上班、こちらの状況は。問題ない。抵抗はほぼ谷がついた。帝国通りに方向ですだ。かけらも残した。
ァルスの異物は殲滅だ。
And those particle effects. I have to admit, they are pretty impressive. I know this is a pre-rendered cutscene because of them. Now we're back to the game engine.
早く逃げなきゃ死んじゃうよ。
すぐ戻る。待ってろ。兄ちゃん、何する気だ。ファルシに会ってくる。セラを助けてもらうんだ。ファルシにお願いするってか。そんなに甘いわけあるか。向こうは人間を道具としか思っちゃいねえんだ。俺は未来を待つだけじゃない。姉さん。
So, spoiler alert, Sarah doesn't actually die because she's the main character of Final Fantasy XIII too. And we have a 3-man party again with Sar, Snow, and Lightning. Cool. So we're about to come upon the main sort of boss fight at the end of this chapter. And as I said before, there's a particular technique to doing that fight. Oh, didn't mean to do that. They put that guy there so you don't notice that it's there. And then you run into it and you're like, why am I in combat? And then it's all like, oh, because there was a guy there. At least that's my belief anyway. So I'm just going to ask, and you can happily respond in the YouTube comments about this, about me not talking through cutscenes. If you prefer that I do, let me know. Because it does feel a little bit awkward to have these long silences in the video while I let the characters talk it out, but then again, I don't really know how best to handle it otherwise in a game like this, where there is that story focus, and part of the point of making these videos is to give you an idea of how the story unlocks, or how the story unfolds at least. But at the same time, I worry a little bit that I'm not adding enough myself to them to make it interesting. So, if you feel like it'd be more interesting during cutscenes, let me know. Oh, that's painful. Okay, don't die, Lightning. Ah, good. Sometimes these battles feel like they're deliberately synchronized to sort of put you right at the end of your health bar at the same time the fight comes to an end. Okay, so we've got a big scary boss battle coming up. I may or may not pass it first time. And then there'll be a cutscene after that, if I succeed. And after that, in fact, if I'd been really smart, I probably would have cut this video at that save point, but oh well. We'll do this boss fight and get to the next save point. I think the game will ask us to save once we finish this fight, and we'll be able to yeah, we'll be able to finish the video there, so I think this one's worked out to be a lot longer than I initially planned it to be. This is a really good example of how the subtitles don't match up to the Japanese audio.
こいつのせいでパージが起きて人間同士殺し合いだ。セラはコクーンを守れと言った。
You honestly haven't missed anything significantly important, as far as I can tell. It's just a different way of telling the same story, I guess. Anyway. So the trick with this boss fight is to take out... It has these two arms on each side. You've got to take them out before you attack the boss, otherwise they will hit you for all of your health. Which is obviously not fun. So. It's not a particularly difficult boss fight once you get that basic mechanic down of killing the arms. Do need to keep a little bit of an eye on your health though, just because there is some damage coming at you. But yeah, I actually did die a couple of times doing this in my practice run a while ago. So.
セラは私に言い残した。
But hopefully things will go according to plan, we'll get this down first time. If not, well, it's not that hard to run back down that corridor again, but I will skip over the cutscene if I have to do this again. So hopefully that won't have to happen.
悪いな。
So what you want to be hitting is the manipulators, the right manipulator and the left manipulator. They don't have a lot of health, and you'll usually be able to get them down in 1 or 2 attack rounds. So yeah, we've killed that one, and they automatically go to the other manipulator. One thing, actually I should point out about, yeah, I'll use a potion right now. One thing worth noting about the combat system is that if you select a particular enemy, and that enemy dies while mid-battle, your character will try then to attack another enemy of that same type in the battle. So this is the regeneration I was talking about. So those manipulators come back, so we have to be a bit careful, go back to attacking the manipulators. Just keep an eye on everyone's health because they do get that much damage. I'll actually go back and use a potion just to keep lightning heal. Oh shit, popped a big one there. Yeah, so right manipulator. See, the manipulator is the main source of damage, so killing them is important to beating this boss. Like I said, it's not a hard boss battle once you know that. I'm gonna pop again now. I've got enough potions, it's not a big deal. Just taking the safety play. This isn't a hard fight or a long fight, it's just a fight where you just need to be aware of your health. That initiating regeneration is what brings the manipulators back, so we'll go auto battle, left manipulator. So once their health starts getting back into the yellow, like took a lot of damage there, so we'll pot now. Go back to killing manipulators. Ow! I didn't do that before. So, pot again. But yeah, this is working out reasonably well. You don't get to stagger this boss because the, as you can see on the combo meter, the stagger limit for him is quite high. So, almost wondering if I could just go straight. I'm not going to risk it. It's not worth the risk. We could possibly have another combat round to kill the boss, but I'd rather clear the manipulators first, just in case that doesn't happen. That resonant magic requires both of those things to be up, I believe. Oh no, only one of them. Okay, because only one of them. But we should be able to clear this and then get rid of this boss right now. There we go. Just yep. Excellent. So that went well. And now we get the big long cutscene. This is sort of the point where the actual plot of the game kicks off. Everything up to now has just been build up to this moment. And you can tell it's an important cutscene because it's one of the pre-rendered ones. You get a focus, and you get a focus, and everybody gets a focus. Yeah, so spoiler alert, they get made into LC. And because this is a Final Fantasy game, everything turns to crystal. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video here right now. I will obviously save before I finish the video, but, oh well, I will obviously save, but yeah, we're going to leave this video here right now, and we will be coming back to this tomorrow, so enjoy.